Does the Stichwraith exist? Well, this is the question is one of the most asked after does the books exist? But not only does the answer to this question changes everything we know or not, but this question's answer and theory will tell us the plot of the events of the ruin. And let's just say it is the last thing you would ever think. There are going to be a lot of stand-ins. In my opinion, and please do not put hate comments on this video, is that the Stichwraith does not exist. In fact, I also don't believe in the Stitch line games. But first, I will give you evidence for why I think this is, and then I will give my theory on this matter and the evidence behind that. I believe that the Stichwraith and the stories involved with the Stichwraith aren't canon, but instead are the stand-ins from different characters in the games. So let me tell you why. First of all, the stories in these epilogues that reference or say the Stichwraith are not that canon. The fights told in these stories between Jake and the Stichwraith, Detective Larson, and Eleanor also mention literally after an amalgamation are not well what we saw in the FNAF timeline. And especially when it isn't placed in the FNAF timeline, which is between 2015 to 2018, or after Pizzeria Simulator and before Pizzaplex, since we don't see any mention of the Pizzaplex, and it is well implied that it would take place after the Pizzeria Simulator fire. It, however, makes a ton of sense if these characters were stand-ins. Andrew definitely by his description looks a lot like Cassidy, and practically acts like Cassidy as he torments William Afton in Man in Room 1280, which is basically Ultimate Custom Night, but in book format. Knowing the books came out after Ultimate Custom Night could show us that Scott Cawthon wanted to show us clarity for that game and possibly tell us new lore we have never known. This is for Faster Fights. So how about we try to establish some stand-ins? In the books, although using a horrifying method, Eleanor practically mimics his victim. Guess what it sounds a lot like? The mimic in both of the Tales from the Pizzaplex books and the games. And it is a good standing theory that the fun times built by Afton were also made using the mimic's abilities. And guess what Eleanor looks like? Although tall, Eleanor and the Circus Baby have the same exact looks. That couldn't just be a coincidence, can't it? Now, what about the Afton amalgamation we see in the epilogues? Well, it's pretty much said that it is full of agony. And what are characters similar to that sheer size and also theorized to be full of agony? You guessed it, the Blob. We see in Security Beach and Ruin. The Blob, I suppose, can be described as an amalgamation. Now, we also see during the fight a scene with the amalgamation in Epilogue 7. It is shown to us that Afton isn't the one powering up the amalgamation, but instead it is Eleanor. Can't we say that the mimic, Eleanor, would want to harness all the power and agony for which is what it is looking for of the Blob, the Afton amalgamation. Now, I do know in Security Beach that the Blob jump scares and kills Gregory, who would be a servant to the mimic or glitch trap. But this is due to the fact that by the time of Security Beach, Gregory had switched sides against the mimic and ran. And yes, I do know that the Blob takes Burn Trap away, which could suggest it's not Afton, but we also know that ending isn't canon at all. It literally is said to us. Now, who could Detective Larson stand for? Well, I also got an answer to that as well. Could Larson be Cassie? Well, not only do we both find out about all of these characters at some point, but they're both heard in the same way. Larson is literally stabbed, and Cassie's literally being heartbroken by the fact that no one joins her birthday party, but that could be a stretch. But now, who could be the Stichwraith? Well, in the epilogues, it is kind of said that Jake isn't a good, happy soul, and Andrew's the opposite, and William Afton is a killer. All in the same place, or something like that. So we now have 2 options, or maybe even 3. Let's start with option 1. Vanessa is a good, as she ends up going to the good side at the end of Security Breach. Bad, as in she was brainwashed but still continued to obey the mimic. And killer, as she killed 9 children as Vanny. Then the next option is Gregory, with good and bad being the same thing as being brainwashed and switching sides, but this time the killer is to do with the escape from the pizza factory where he forms the rearranged agent to practically try to kill Cassie. What about the secret option? What if it's Poetic and Stichwraith? We already know that 2 of the 3 people working together are different physical people. What if they are? Vanessa, Gregory, and Cassie all working together to defeat the mimic. But there's one defect, and since we know that Vanessa is really the only killer in the 3, she could be that one defect. And since Andrew passes on, Gregory might, I suppose, die. This could literally be telling us the events of the ruin. And that will definitely change what we think of Ruben and Vanessa and possibly even Gregory. Now, what about the last epilogues? About a girl bleeding in the bucket for 30 years. Well, again, that could be Poetic. Cassidy feels like she's been bleeding for 30 years, which causes her to be a vengeful spirit. I hope you enjoyed this video very much, and I do hope that you will like and subscribe. It does take a lot of effort to make these videos and animations, so please like and subscribe, as that will be phenomenal to this YouTube channel. Goodbye, and I'll see you next week.